Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello people, good morning. My name is Rahmadiani. My student number is 55. And now I'm going to deliver my journal article presentation. The title is The Effect of Journal Writing on Student Cognitive Critical Thinking Skills, a quasi-experimental research on an English as a Foreign Language or EFL undergraduate classroom in Egypt by Hana Yosef Sarawi. Okay, let's start. The main content of this journal are: the first is introduction. In introduction, there are critical thinking, literature review, context of the study, and hypothesis. The second is methodology. In methodology, there are participant and procedure, and then result and discussion, and the last is conclusion. In conclusion, there are summary and limitation and implication for further research. Let's talk about introduction. People working in Egyptian higher education don't ask students to write journal in the courses they teach, nor do they focus on enhancing students' critical thinking skill. Any method that apply critical thinking skills on courses are just idiosyncratic attempts that are not generalized. The researcher has suffered a problem when she had to complete an online course where the journal writing was one of the requirements of the successful completing of the course. And after writing 3 journals, it went so easily and smoothly. This caused the researcher to apply the same technique with her student. This research purposed to find out whether journal writing would develop critical thinking skill and Bloom's cognitive skill in the online grammar course that was tackling comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Introduction. The first is about critical thinking. What is critical thinking? Critical thinking is a set of skills and attitudes that result in the evaluation of the reasoning of the speaker or writer using specific generally accepted criteria for strong reasoning. Critical Thinking Assessment Test or CAT is a test that designed by Tennessee Technological University associates critical thinking to Bloom's classical taxonomy of higher order skills. The second is about literature review. Journal writing used as one of the varieties of informal writing technique in the field of sociology to develop students' cognitive thinking skills using a concentric thinking model or PTA model. Besides that, it also used as a scaffold for children with learning disabilities. The third is context of the study. The university where the research took place over as a university requirement course, first-year students an academic writing course with a special focus on writing a problem solution essay. The book is like Harburn and Pallant. The students are to read 5 resources and then integrate them in a problem solution essay using in-text and full citizen technique and deliver a presentation. The hypothesis is if students wrote a weekly journal on what they have learned throughout the whole week, their cognitive critical thinking skill would improve. The next is about methodology. This experiment followed a quasi-experimental design. The experiment was carried out during spring 2014 semester over a period of semester instruction weeks. This experiment divided the participants into 2 groups, the experimental groups and the control groups. Initially, there were 16 middle-level mass communication students representing the experimental group and 7 mass communication students at the same level represent the control group. But in the end, there was only 16 students representing the experimental group, consisting of those who attend the pre-test and post-test and wrote 7 journals, and also who attend the pre-test and post-test. And the control groups, there were only 7 students representing the control groups, where those took the pre-test and post-test. Participants divided to male and female. Their age range for 18 until 20 years old. Procedures. The first is pre-test. The purpose of the pre-test was to measure students' cognitive critical thinking skill. The modified critical thinking test discussed in the following section was used as the pretest of the experiment. The second is modified critical thinking test and rubrics for marking it. The researcher chose 10 articles on the difference between man and woman in communication. The criteria for scoring students' response in this experiment were modified as follows: 0 for no response, 1 for response in unrelated to the record skill, 2 for response addresses the skill in a minimal way, 3 for the student response semi-partially, and 4 to the student respond adequately. The third is experiment. The experiment in this research consisted of 7 weekly journals given to students throughout the course semester. The weaknesses are students cannot complete the journal and students will lose the journal. The strength is the student would get extra credit point in the coursework when completing the journal. The fourth is post-test. The purpose of post-test was to see whether there was development in students' cognitive critical thinking skill after the experiment or not. After finishing the semester, the post-tests were marked by the researcher using the scoring criteria. The next is about results and discussion. Pre-test. The main pre-test in the experimental group and the control group, there was no statistically significant difference between the level of the 2 groups. The difference in answer score between the two groups didn't reach one class, as in the table below. Post test. The difference in mean post test between the two groups was highly statistically significant. The cognitive critical thinking skill of the experimental group surpassed those of the control groups, and the difference between the two groups exceeded 2 grades in some answers. Is about conclusion summary. The purpose of this research was to report on a quasi-experiment. The research hypothesis is that journal writing will develop the student critical thinking skill. The modified critical thinking test was used to measure students' cognitive critical thinking skills before and after the experiment. Only 16 students represented the experimental groups and 7 students represented the control groups, functioning as a convenient samples. The research could be duplicated with a larger sample that is randomly chosen is the strength of this research. The time constraints and nature of the course are the weakness of this research. The suggestion is that researchers devote more time to experiment and apply it to other experiment courses and other disciplines. For recommendation, researchers to make journal with students in the portfolio. Okay, maybe that's all from me. That's about my journal article presentation. Thank you for watching. Sorry for my mistakes, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye bye.